Great.
Good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to be here with my friend Jane.
Hello, Miller.
It's so lovely to see you in the flesh. We normally just have chats, and I must say over the last year, we've done a lot of connection calls between us. How are you? How are you really? And I think today we're talking on a subject that, to be honest with you, I said to Jane, I feel quite a fraud talking about, because this is possibly my biggest challenge in life right now, and that's self-care. Over the last year, I've been coaching quite a lot of people who are saying they're not feeling great. And some of the symptoms as such that people are experiencing are things like having mental fog, having exhaustion, just that feeling of blah, no energy. I've spoken to so many people who just feel like they've got nothing left. And hence our talk today, how do you pour from an empty cup? So I thought, who's better? Nobody else is better than Jane Linley Thomas to come and share. Jane is a friend of mine. She's somebody who has a lot of compassion for people. She is a co-founder of Kindness Can. Most of us know her as a presenter, a DJ, but she's a motivational speaker. She's a mom of 3. She's a wife. She's a community heart. And so I really wanted Jane to be here today to share her thoughts, because I certainly feel like I'm up the creek without a paddle on most days. And what I found is that I think so many people feel like they've been broken by the last year. And my theory is that it's not necessarily the case. I think many of us were actually broken or breaking beforehand. I know that when the lockdown was announced, I had just come off probably 27 years of just being pathologically busy. My diary was always booked up 3 weeks in advance. And I lived with this generalized anxiety where every day I was overwhelmed and I was anxious and thinking, how am I going to get through today? I don't have enough time for what I need to do. And I think I was really, really hard on myself. And during the lockdown, I've had to make some serious adjustments because I realized I couldn't carry on. I mean, I got off so many committees. I slowed things right down. It's still not slow enough for my liking, but I realized I had to make some changes. So it's something I've been investigating. How do we take better care of ourselves? And I know there's a lot of women on this call, and often what happens is we are the glue of the family. We are the ones looking after everybody else. So, I've just been doing a bit of research on self-care. And the one thing is some people say it's selfish. I haven't got time to care for myself. I have to look after everyone. But we are of no use to anybody else if we're not feeling great ourselves. And then it's not just a nice to have, it's an essential. It's a part of being human, and it's a part of being an adult. We've got to actually take responsibility for ourselves, because nobody else is going to do it for us. So, something I've been trying to do as well is ask myself, how do I feel right now? What do I need? And then trying to deliver it. So many of us are literally making this virtue out of being self-deprived. It's okay, not for me. I can't afford it. I don't have time. And today's the day, I think, where we discuss how we do it. And I think Jane and I discussed what she wants to share with you is what stops your cup from flowing. Because as you say, I mean, if we had this cup that was overflowing and flowing, I think it would be amazing. So I'm going to hand over to Jane. I'm going to just have a little chat with you. Are we having fun? We hope you have fun, and we hope you get a few little tools in your toolbox.
Yes.
So thanks, Jane. Over to you.
Thanks so much. First of all, I just want to say, I think we really need to take a moment and just say, how far I've come. Because I think for a lot of us, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we went into survival mode, and we've just been surviving for a lot of the time. Yeah. I think pre-COVID, it was like aspirational, where am I going to travel? What am I going to do in my business? And then it kind of, after the hard lockdown ended, where we were all living in this little bubble, it started to become very real.
Yeah.
And when we chatted last week, we were saying, some days it feels like you're just kind of trudging through this molasses type of feeling, that it's sometimes the easiest things that become the most difficult to do in your day.
Big time.
So if you're feeling stretched emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, I just want you to hold a moment right now and just say to yourself, man, look how far I've come. You are resilient. You are here. You are breathing. That's not to say that we haven't had trauma and some really hard things to navigate around. So when I thought about this pouring from the cup, It's so easy to pour from the cup on a Saturday morning. Hey?
Yeah,
Flowing.
on
Payday, on a Friday, on a weekend.
Holidays.
The cup is flowing, the water is pristine, it's clear, it's blue, it's sparkly, it's refreshing. But what about those days where you wake up and you just think, oh, tired of living like this. I'm so stressed I can hardly breathe. I'm juggling so hard, I don't know who I'm supposed to be catering to. And then there's this whole thing about self-care. I don't have the time to lie down, let alone lie on my back and have my nails dead. So what stops your cup from flowing? And when I sat and thought about that for myself, the first thing that always comes up for me, and it's a constant, is fear. Fear is the biggest. It closes down my circuit system. It closes down my opportunities. It closes down my energy. It closes down my love and my heart, because I want to go into self-preservation mode. So for a long time, I catered to this mindset of, I think it happened when I went from being a mom of 1 to 3.
Overnight.
Overnight. I had 3 children under the age of 2 at one stage. That the scarcity mindset started to come into my world. Was, is there going to be enough? Sorry, I just want to stop here. Can you hear me? I've just got a message through here that you can't hear me. That would be very sad after an hour. You can hear me. Okay, fantastic. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So there was this idea lying on the Guyanese bed, Dr. Norcott, bless him, and his amazing bedside manner of very like soft, and I was bellowing on the bed. In that moment, I started to program scarcity. Things like, will there be enough? Will we have enough? How will I love 3 children? How will I love my husband? How will I love myself? How will we get to school in the small car that we have? How will we live in the small house that we have? Will there be enough? So all of a sudden, I started to program scarcity into my life. So fear became the God whose knees I used to go to every evening. And I didn't know it, but I started to program this really negative energy in my life without even knowing it. It was coming from a good place because my intentions were pure, because I wanted to be able to have enough for all of us. But I started to close down. So if you have fear in your life, I know it's so easy, but navigating the fear and taking the fear out of the driving seat of your life and putting it into the passenger seat of your life has been one of the most profound things that I've become conscious of, because it still grabs me. Don't think I'm fear-free. It still wants to grab me around the neck, and I have days where literally I can't breathe. I feel really focused. I'm like, I know you. I know who you are, your fear, you're here to protect me. Because guys, how's this from mind blow? Now, this is through the work that I've been doing with Kindness Can, is if we have, I don't want to get it wrong here, between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day. Ask me how many of those are negative. 80%. 80%. Ask me how many of those thoughts are reoccurring. 95%. So before we even go to bed, we've got our work cut out for it. My mental health has become a full-time job. Because when I want to go into that scarcity mindset of, yes, finances have got a lot less, but what I need, what I want, difference between the two, and I can consciously start saying to fear, I'm going to put you in a box. I know that you're here to protect me. Thank you. Thank you for doing such a great job in trying to protect me, but you're not driving this car. I don't need you in the front seats of my car. So fear for me has been such a huge shift of moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset. Now you can say to me, well, Jane, it's very easy when you're sitting with the life that you have. Okay, say, for example, use that as an example. But did you know that my husband was retrenched? Did you know that some nights I'm so fearful about, will we have enough? Will my 3 children at 3 different schools have what they need, 2 of which are in remedial schooling? Fear wants to come. It wants to hold me captive. It wants to say to me, Jane, oh, I know how you feel. I'm going to hold you here and I'm going to hold you in the darkness. I'm like, oh, hell, not today. Because if we look at, for example, the research that's coming out around gratitude, which is mind-blowing, there's actually like tangible research that when you are grateful, serotonin and dopamine is released. So for me, I'm like, well, it's a no-brainer to start my day by being grateful for something.
Absolutely. It works.
I'm telling you, I spoke to a laughter coach about 2 weeks ago, and she was telling me that your brain doesn't know how to differentiate between real laughter and made-up laughter. So for me in the day, if I can have a good about anything, and of course look at the sunrise, I know, hey, fear, I'm one step away from you trying to grab me and take me. So controlling fear has been huge for me in my life. Fear got so out of control in my life that it actually made me ill. I have now come to realize that I take all my stress and I put it into my shoulder. We all take our stress and we put it into different places. It might be stomach, it might be terrible headaches, it might not be able to sleep at night, it might be overspending, overeating, over gossiping, overdoing something or other. Being aware that the fear is there is you're able to kind of compartmentalize it. Then you're probably saying, well, everything's circumstantial. It's all very well and good saying, okay, your husband's being retrenched, financially you're stressed, but I actually lost someone during COVID and I actually can't get out of the fog. I can't see the wood for the trees. So I also need to say that it is due to circumstance. I'm not here saying let's wallpaper over the feeling, let's pretend everything's kiff and rad, because they're hard moments every single day. If we look at the landscape of how people have struggled in our families, in our businesses, in our communities, in our organizations, there are some really hard days.
Terrible stories.
And hard days. 2 days ago, I had one of those days. One of those days where you get up and you think, I'm not doing this day today. And getting into bed at midday and saying, I'm turning on the aircon, I'm closing the curtains, and I'm going to sleep for an hour. But they're not also stewing in the guilt that I should be doing this.
I should be.
Why am I on my phone? Get off your bloody phone. So I think it's also due to circumstance. And I never want to be a person that you think I'm preaching from this rosy picture. I choose, and that's also such a wonderful thing, is if we always have choice on where we choose to position ourselves in our journey. Are we going to be the person that feels victimized and that the world is always against us and we've got everything to lose because it's never going to happen? Or are we the person that stands up and says, I'm having a tough time today, but man, look at this day. Start there. Sometimes the silver lining just needs to be, I have 2 lungs that work and they have just drawn in full, beautiful air for me to breathe. Because I think that sometimes we can be disillusioned that we're supposed to be looking for these grand moments.
I know.
Social media doesn't help us there.
It doesn't. That comparison.
Oh, no. Everyone's doing life so much better than me. No. They're showing you the show reel of their life. You know what I mean? So please don't ever use that as a comparator, as a good comparison. Also surrounding yourself with people that want to see you doing well. That's so important. In your family, in your business. The cheerleaders, gravitate towards those people. I said to my kids, and I sound like my mom so much of the time, which is a wonderful thing, but I remember her saying things like, if you've got 5 friends on your hand that you can count, you are rich. And I feel like I am in that place in my life where COVID's also given me the opportunity to whittle down, whittle until I have this tiny little nucleus that are my people.
Which is amazing. And they've got your back all the time.
Got my back all the time. So I think it's also really worth commenting on filling the cup is making sure that what you're putting into the cup is fuel. So are you first thing in the morning getting up and reading the headlines from around the world? Because that's not going to fill your cup. That is going to take you into a fear space. That's going to close down your energy. I'm such a huge believer that with an open heart that wants to love and be kind and vulnerable comes universal blessings. Always. So that's why I think something like today is so epic, because we're not here saying that we have our stuff sorted out. Right? Any stretch of anybody's imagination. We're here to say we have hard days too. We're putting our hand up and saying, let's be touch points for each other. I will never forget the thing that you said to me. It stayed with me. I quote you at least once a week, saying that we have the opportunity to walk each other home. Cindy, that line, it makes me want to cry, because I think there's such a beautiful gifting in being vulnerable with people and saying, I'm not coping today. My cup feels really, really dry. I'm not coping today.
And reach out.
Got you. So people in your personal space, on your online space, I think that's also really, really important. Then, of course, there's that whole how do we balance work and home life?
Do we do that?
You look like you do it really well.
It's funny, Jane. I have been asked to do that talk on how to get the balance right, probably several hundred times in the last 20 years. And every time I stand up and say, I'm a fraud, I don't have it right. And everyone laughs and they think it's hysterical. But the book I'm writing at the moment is How Does She Do It? And it's very much the story of, actually, the answer is very badly. And it's kind of unpicking that pedestalization. So often we look at somebody and we think that person's got everything together. They seem so much more organized than me. If they've got a successful business, they must be everything else. But just because somebody has a great business, it doesn't mean that they're the best mom. in my little Lexi, she actually got into the public speaking finals, and her talk was, I think my mother's trying to kill me. And it was about how I've never made her sandwiches. The other day I did the Sami Army with Robin Hood. I made more sandwiches in one morning than I've made as my whole parenthood. I mean, how bad is that? But then we have guilt. Then then that's the other thing as well, is letting go of that guilt and going, well, out of that, I at least created very independent children.
Yeah.
And they've got all their fingers.
Yeah. Yay. But I think for people like you and I, and for a lot of people on this call, I fell into the trap of going to work and being the best person I could be. And then going home and having very little for my people. Oh, and that's where Kindness Can actually was born from, realizing that I could do things differently. And still there are moments that happened this weekend when, when you turn around, you scream at your children, you sound like you've got like a voice modulator on. It sounds like it's come out of like a horror movie saying would you please, like that kind of voice. Yeah. And I turned around and I had a tear in my eye. I said, guys, I feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
Here I am being this Kindness Can facilitator, the kind-hearted, open, epic human. And I don't feel like I ever stop grilling you guys on your manners, on how to do life, on how to do this, because of course my intention is great and I want the best for you. Yeah. I don't feel very kind right now, which makes me feel like a fraud.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to be very careful and realize that we are humans.
Yeah.
We are all human beings. And something that's really set me free is that I strive for progress, not for perfection.
I think
it has set me free. Yeah. Because when that guilt comes, regardless of what it may be about not having gone for a run or a walk, or I've eaten badly, or I've said something, or my tone wasn't right, or I snapped, or I did this or that, is actually not to hold myself and then kind of beat myself up very unkindly.
It's so unfair. And what are we doing to ourselves? But I also believe, Jane, I've always used this analogy of a mango. We start each day with this beautiful, ripe, juicy yellow mango. It's plump and delicious. And we allow everybody, all the nobodies, to take a bite. And by the time we get home at the end of the day, there's just little bits of yellow hair and we've got nothing left, And I know that I've done this before, where I've driven home with my girls in the car and then a client phones and then I'm like, hello. And then I'm trying to smack their legs behind me. I know none of you on this call would do that. You're much nicer people. But where you feel like, this is not cool, So I think sometimes it is just a case of, know who the nobodies are, know who the somebodies are. And I always refer to Malcolm Gladwell because he always said, if each one of us has approximately 12 people. If they were to die, we'd be gutted. We need to know who those 12 are. But here's the thing. I coached a lady on one occasion who had no boundaries when it came to work. She was married. Let's just say her husband's name was Pete and her boss's name was Dave. And I said, who's number one in your life? She said, Dave, her boss. I couldn't believe it. The next week she was retrenched. So, so many of us are leaning our ladder against the wall, trying to climb a ladder, but the ladder is actually against the wrong wall. And the next thing I said was, who should be number one? If in your life, out of the people, what if you put yourself first? And I know it's a foreign concept. It seems almost egotistical and self-centered to say, I'm actually going to put myself first, maybe even just for a season, so that I can actually fill that tank up. And then, I love this quote by Oprah the one day. She said, somebody came up to her and she said, you are so full of yourself. And Oprah said, yes, thank you. I know. It's what I intended. I filled myself so full that I'm overflowing and able to give everybody what I've got. And I just love that analogy. So we always see it as selfishness and arrogance and, just a little bit too much. But I actually love the way she put that.
I think a huge aha moment for me as well was realizing that, I don't know where, and especially to the people on this call that have got young people in their lives, it might be a son or a daughter, it might be a nephew, a godchild, a cousin, or whatever. I don't know where it came from, but this kind of, if you take time for yourself, there should be the guilt. And then the aha moment of coming like, well, if that's how you're behaving, you're role modeling for the small people in your life that you want them to grow up to be adults that never take time for themselves, guilt-free. Boom! Yeah. Head blow. Yeah. I would hate that for my children. Yeah. But what do? We do it and then we make this is why. I'm justifying why I'm doing this so everybody's very clear on why I'm taking time for me. No. My kids now know. I'm going to lie down from 10 till 3 and read my book. If you come over the line and you're not bleeding, we have a problem, Houston. Because I think we just, going to the toilet's not a holiday. Going to the supermarket is not a vacay, babe.
Exactly.
Well, it used to be for me. I used to think this is just the best outing of my life. And beans are on special. You know what I mean?
Aim higher.
I'm aiming higher. So don't fall into that trap of role modeling for the small people in your life.
And the boundaries. I mean, I think it's important to have boundaries. And it's something I've battled with my whole life, this chronically overdeveloped pleaser gene. So one of the things that I realized only a couple of years ago, I'm sad to admit this, I was probably about 48 because I'm now 50. And I was sitting there the one day, sitting and feeling sick at my computer. And I thought, why am I feeling so negative and terrible? Why am I feeling so anxious? And I looked and it was an email I'd received. It was somebody asking me to do something I didn't want to do. But everything in me was designed to go, yes, of course, but I didn't want to do it. And I realized that day to start listening to my gut. You know, when something in your body goes, And I used to sit there with this massive cognitive dissonance all the time going, I don't want to upset people. I don't want to offend people, you know, and I've really taken that on quite seriously over the last year or two. And when lockdown started, I can't tell you the relief I got out of saying no. I got off committees, I got off boards. I actually just carved my life into a smaller space where energetically I was able to thrive in that space. Well, I don't know about thrive. Some days it felt like barely survive. On my best days, almost thriving, if you know what I mean. But I just realized I was a lifer. I didn't know when to stop doing something. So, for instance, I have a friend who was on a committee with the school, you know, the parents' committee. But when they left school, she was still on the parents' committee. I mean, sometimes we don't know when a season needs to end. And I sat down and I thought, you know what? I think I've been on so many commitments for too many seasons, and that's possibly one of my challenges. One of the challenges I'll pose to people on the call: who or what must go? You know, sometimes we've got stuff that's really taking all our energy, it's taking all the joy out of our lives, and maybe we can say no to it. Maybe there's a commitment that we committed 2 years ago when we were in a different space, but now it needs to change. And also, you know, sometimes we don't like to be accused of shifting the goalposts, but everything has changed. So we actually have massive permission at the moment to say, "Ik kan nie meer nie." What do you think? Well, that's really bad Afrikaans. No, it sounded like the Queen.
This book, I spoke to you at lunch 2 weeks ago. If you haven't read this book, please take the title down. It is a book that is next to my bed every night, and it brings me such comfort. It's by a woman by the name of Glennon Doyle, the Sunday Times #1 bestseller. It's called Untamed. Stop pleasing, start living. And you know, when you've got Brene Brown writing like a couple of lines on the cover, things are good. She says here, some books shake you by the shoulders while others steal your heart. Untamed does both at the exact time. Wake up, love you. This book, please. I think that we all fall into that space of, if I say yes, it shows I'm committed. Yeah, at work in particular. If I'm not be seen to put my hand in all the time, then I'm not being a committed employee.
Yeah. But what about self-worth? What about my self-worth is not even strong enough for me that I need everyone else around me to like me. So therefore, I will say yes to whatever people ask, no matter what, because I don't have the courage to say no, because that might be linked to my self-worth or that lack thereof.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue I know a lot of women have, and that's something I've struggled with over years.
I battle with that at home because of having 3 kids. I'll say to Rocco, yes, I'll come and do the Lego. And then as I'm walking through, Lula's like, can you help me with this? I'm like, yes. Rocco, I'm coming. I'm going to help Lula. And then as I'm going to Lula, Cooper's like, Mom, can you? And I'm just like, I can't get to all of you. I don't know how to get to all of you. I need and some days I get it right, and some days I get it really wrong.
Yeah.
So again, we try our best. We strive for progress, not for perfection. I think something also worth noting, and I sometimes fall into this trap as well, is being a person that has like toxic positivity syndrome.
Yeah. Oh, I've been accused of that so much.
But I come from, my dad is one of the most positive people I know. Let me give you an example. He went to Cape Town. My mom and dad went to Cape Town about 2 weeks ago, and my dad at the age of 65 fell off my nephew's skateboard, okay? And he has ripped and torn his rotator cuff. Do you think he is going to get it sorted out? He went to the hospital. He had a scan. They said, you've ripped it. There's like one little baby tendon claw hanging in here. And my dad is going to heal it with his mind. He has said it. He has said it. I am going to heal my shoulder with my mind. Well, he grimaces every time, you know, he moves the arm, and we went away last week, and I said, Dad, at some stage you need to realize that there is medical help to help you. But I come from that, eh? So I've come from your cup is always half full. The sun is always shining. But sometimes you err into the kind of space that you're whistling while Rome is burning. Rome is building, and you're whistling saying, gosh, that's a beautiful color orange. So do you feel like you also slip into that sometimes?
I also find that because I'm a motivational speaker and a coach, I feel that's almost duty bound to be the positive force as a leader of an organization, as a leader of a charity. It's I need to wear the positive pants.
It's quite exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Sometimes you sort of say, like, blow it all. Like, yes, it's burning and things are really hectic.
It's bad.
But it's not my nature.
I know.
Because as soon as I slip into that, I just feel it doesn't serve me in a way that where abundance is attainable. I feel like I'm going to go into that dark hole where I'm a victim. I never want to be a victim. I want to be a survivor.
Exactly.
And there's such a huge difference between being a victim and survivor, right? So toxic positivity is definitely something that I need to watch out for. But I'd rather be that than a Debbie Downer. You know, those people that walk into the room, you're like, how are you doing? And they just, they just suck all the energy out of the room.
For sure.
So toxic positivity. I want to also say that I know how difficult it is to be creative when you feel like that cup is barren. There's not even, like, if you can imagine a sponge and you've wrung it and it's being wrung and wrung and wrung, if that's the right English, and then it's like goes into almost like a pumice stone or pumice stone, whatever you call it. It's like hard. It's like something that's come out of the ocean that's been baking on the beach for 10 years. So I get that sometimes it's really difficult to go into the workspace and into your life and be creative and be effervescent and have ideas when you're just breathing. And some days it's okay just to breathe. But for me, something I've also really missed is getting dressed for the day. COVID stole my wardrobe.
Well, nothing's stopping you from looking awesome.
Well, I've actually made that pact with myself, because how many times, if you're working from home and you're on calls all day, have got up, done a bit of exercise, and you're at 6 o'clock, 6:45, and you're still in your stinky, skanky bra from 6 a.m. Because the day's running me. I'm not running my day. So I'm like, right, so if I'm going to go and do exercise in the morning, which I try to do every morning, I'm going to shower and I'm going to put some lippy on. Doesn't matter if it goes all over my mask. I'm going to show up for my day. So showing up for the day, even if you're in your bedroom, I think that is a really good go-to. But being creative. And I've battled with that. You know, I host an online radio show for East Coast Gold, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. To 1, and then again on 2 to 6 on a Saturday. And some days I just sit in front of my computer and I'm just like, I don't know what to talk about.
Uninspired.
I don't feel like I have any gees inside of me. And it's always much easier when I've been to the Midlands and I've seen the big blue sky, or I've gone in the ocean and I've lain in the sand. But I wanted to read you something out of another book. It's called Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. And it's written by Elizabeth Gilbert, who we know from Eat, Pray, Love. Really great book. So I wanted to just read you a little passage here about how she believes that creativity and fear share a womb. Isn't that interesting? That every time, and I'm sure you can identify with this, that every time you have an idea that negative Nancy, no, sorry if your name's Nancy and you're on the call, it's just, if you got that negative voice saying, don't, it's never going to work, you're going to fail, la, la, la.
So how many people do that?
Well, I think it's programmed. Again, that poor little mind of ours wanting to look for the worst case scenario and keep us safe. And it's like, rather just stay at home.
Exactly.
Don't put your hand up there. So it's called Dearest Fear. Creativity and I are about to go on a road trip together, and I understand you'll be joining us because you always do. I acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job seriously. Apparently your job is to induce complete panic wherever I'm going to do something interesting. And may I say, you are superb at your job. So by all means, keep doing your job if you feel you must, but I will also be doing my job on this road trip, which is to work hard and stay focused. And creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. And there's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so please make yourself at home. But understand this, creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect that you are part of this family, and so I will never exclude you from our activities, but still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat, and you're always allowed to have a voice, and you are not allowed to have a vote. You're not allowed to touch the road maps. You're not allowed to suggest detours, and you're not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend, you're absolutely forbidden to drive. Then we head off together, me and creativity and fear, side by side, forever, advancing once more into the terrifying but marvelous terrain of unknown outcome.
I love that. I love that.
Isn't that cool?
And it's acknowledging it. So it's not saying like there's no fear, or, you know, I think so many people are like, go ahead despite the fear. But sometimes, as you say, fear can be incredibly crippling. And it's amazing what fears people have.
Yeah, I think the failure.
Yeah.
Because I think that also stems into childhood stuff.
Exactly. Fear of poverty. You know how many people during this past year have been absolutely terrified by the fear of poverty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, with the work that I'm doing with Paul, being a psychologist, have really had a deep dive into realizing that where we are now is because of the journey we've walked. We have triggers, we have memories, we have beliefs, we have truths that we don't really believe are truth, because the beliefs, and most of the time, are actually somebody else's voice, which is really scary. I'll give you an example. I've got a very dear friend who's made an extremely successful career on being a fitness guru, trainer type of person. And she said she remembers being at a gymnastic competition. She was tiny. She was below the age of 8. And she ran off the mat and jumped into her dad's arms. And he went, oh, you're so heavy.
Oh my God.
And she said, in that moment, that voice, you're too heavy, you're too heavy. And shame poor dad. I mean, it was never his intention to give her that core belief to hang her hat on for the rest of her life. So also just be really careful whose voice you're listening to. When you're fearful of trying to do something creative, watch whose narrative you're leaning against. Make sure that it's the truth. But we know what they say about the truth. There's 3 sides. There's your side, their side, and the truth.
And what's really in the middle. Hey? Absolutely. But I think self-awareness is an important thing for if we're looking at self-care. You know, have we done the work? Have we actually looked in the mirror? Have we gone, what thought patterns or behavioral patterns or responses are holding me back? So, I mean, you know, when you feel like everything around you is out of control, which I think for many people it has had moments, days when you feel I've got this, days when everything's out of control. You know, there's a couple of things we can actually have an influence over, and that's, how am I thinking? You know, what are the words I'm thinking? What are the thoughts I'm thinking? Being mindful of it instead of, because, you know, a thought becomes a mood becomes your behavior, then becomes your character.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might have started off one day just in a bad, you know, thinking negatively, and it's become how you are in the last year. Maybe that's not working for you. So I think that awareness of as you said, 90% of the thoughts I thought yesterday, I'm thinking today, and I will think tomorrow, unless I make an active decision to change it. I heard something last week which was mind-blowing. Okay. We all know about affirmations. So we can drive to work going, I am confident, I am excited, I am positive, I am oozing with life and enthusiasm, you know, whatever those things are. But this gent who was speaking on this call last week was talking about a different approach, asking ourselves why. Because if we ask ourselves why, the subconscious is going to work to find the answer. So even things like, why am I so sexy? Jane, why are you so sexy? You know, I know it sounds crazy, but a lot of the times we think certain things. Why am I so confident? Why am I getting through this day with such ease? Why do I take such care of myself? Why am I getting younger and younger every year? Why do I choose to eat healthy and eats and drinks only? I don't. I mean, I need to start that. So I started doing that, and I shared a session with my staff, and we had so many laughs about it. But it's amazing how many things have started presenting themselves. And, you know, and I mean, I accompany that with prayer of gratitude, because I think gratitude is so important. But, you know, so many people are actually not driving. As you said, fear is in the driver's seat. But I think some people, they don't know who's driving their vehicle. They literally feel like they're in a washing machine. So I show up each day. I don't know what life's going to do to me or for me, but I'm just here and I'm punch drunk. Whereas if we said, listen, you know, this last year has taught me so much about where my strengths and weaknesses are. how much work have you done to find your blind spots? That's part of self-care, saying, is this working for me? Is this belief system working? How do I change it? If I can't change it, who do I go to for help? And I even went to a homeopathic doctor, and I had another appointment this morning. And her question was, how are you feeling? And I'm going, I'm okay. And, you know, we all know that the term okay is from the war, 0 killed. And she goes, so nobody was dead today, but the point is, you're not great. Let's go for optimal wellness. How many of us have said, you know what, from this day onwards, I'm actually going to try and be the best version of me. I can't live my best life. I can't be the best mom, wife, friend, daughter, motivational speaker if I'm empty, you know, and then the cup is empty. So what are the things that I'm missing and what do I need? So I think that's so important. And we have to do the work. Nobody's going to come to us and go, let me fix you. Nobody can fix us. We have to actually drive that car. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, 3 of my really closest girlfriends are going through this huge, profound shift.
Yeah.
And it's the same narrative. What are you running from as opposed to running towards? And I think that the COVID year has given us a lot of time to ask the why. For me, for sure, my whole life has changed since asking those big questions. And the thing that I feared the most was actually my biggest gift, madness. But it keeps coming out in the relation and the conversations that we have. And I love to deep dive these kind of things. It's like, what are you running from? Because when you're running, you're not having 1 glass of wine in the evening. You're having 3 because you want the numb. You want to run, you want the numb. So what are you doing to slow the process down and realize you can't outrun your discomfort? You can't outrun your discomfort. And one of the things that came out in Untamed, the Glennon Doyle book, is that we can do hard things. And I think that is such an important thing to remind yourself. And if last year wasn't enough of a testament to show how resilient and adaptable and dependable you are on yourself for yourself because you're still here, I don't know what else. We can stand in the fire of our own discomfort. We can look at the hurt of whatever it may be, relationships, whatever it may be, because we all have different circumstances and we all have something that at the end of the day, it causes hurt, it causes discomfort, it causes you to think about it. But I think that we live in such a wired and instant gratification type of world that when we get this hard feeling, we talk about it kind of can. You want to throw it away like a hot potato.
You don't want to sit.
I don't want to have this. So what do? We grab for that habit or that thing that we always do because it makes us feel better in that moment. So we build a wooden fire escape. We go and buy those shoes. We go and do that. We go and whatever that thing is that you do, you know what it is. And for a moment, you are ethereal. And then what happens? You're in a wooden fire escape. It starts to burn. Now you're in the smolders. The feeling's back, and you have the guilt because you knew you shouldn't have done it. So, oh my gosh, poor us.
But you know, I think I've felt the same way. So one thing I've realized, under pressure, what do? So under pressure, I tend to work more. How many of us, when we knew lockdown was happening, started working more? How many of us started eating more? Started smoking, started drinking? Well, even they took the cigarettes away, but people still found them. How many people started doing things that were so bad for them? Cell phone addictions, social media, whatever that thing is. So under pressure, we resort to a bad behavior most of the time. That is our default setting. So, you know, when we're intentional in that, we might go out and have a salad. But when we're not intentional, we go out and have the pizza. When we're intentional, we say, this is good for me. When we're not, you know, so I think part of self-care is actually being intentional and going, are the decisions I'm making serving me well? And something I found out the other day is, you know, just asking myself, how do I relax? And I realized I don't, I escape. So many of us, we don't actually chill, and we find it very hard to be in the moment. Even how many of us on this call are sitting there thinking, I need to get to my emails. You know, we live in the future. How many of us are comfortable sitting in the present and saying, well, this is the hour I've committed to. Let's enjoy the hour. You know, let's be in the hour, you know.
Social media is a real battle for me. I mean, how many of you in this call have looked at your phone, if you're not on your phone, in the last 43 minutes? I think because I work for myself, I don't know if I'm using that as an excuse, but I always have my phone with me. It's always within, and always know when an email's coming, and it's always going to have a reply. And I know because I go and chat to people about slowing the moment down,
exactly.
take the moment for you. But I think it then tips into we've got to keep the wolf from the door. We've got to keep the opportunities open. We've got to keep working. So I walk that very thin line, and I start the week off like someone would with like how they're going to eat or they're not going to drink. And I'm like,
always Monday.
Monday's great, Tuesday's great, Wednesday's starting to kind of, and Thursday's you're counting Friday. So you're nailing it for like 3 days. Woo! Small wins.
Exactly. No, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And there's something called manufactured urgency as well, I think. So I live in a very much an entrepreneurial space. Most people I know are entrepreneurs or, are quite high functioning sort of high level people. And what we find is how often are we actually living in a space of, I've got to return this. I've got to return this message. And there's a saying, we teach people how to treat us. So what if we said to people, oh my gosh, you know what I'm going to do? From now on, you'll hear from me within 24 hours. If it's urgent, send a WhatsApp or I don't return calls. I mean, what if you didn't? What if you said, email free day? What if, in the December holidays, I took a 7-day social media detox. Firstly, I saved an hour a day at least.
What did you do?
I had loads of things. But, I think it's so important. And to ask ourselves, one of the things that I've battled with in terms of self-care, something I'm really working on, and I'm not getting it right most of the time, is margin, white space. So if there's a space in my diary, I sort of cram another appointment in. And you know how often I say this? We are defined by excuses. And this is my excuse. Oh, my diary won't let me do it. It's like my diary is a monster that's got this black pen that's filling in everything. Meanwhile, I'm the one holding the pen. How many of us are holding the pen and actually creating obstacles to our best lives? And we don't even know it, So now I've made a commitment to myself. I try not to have more than 3 or 4 appointments a day max, because I know I just haven't got the capacity for it. And it's amazing. Pre-COVID, I was doing 8 a day, and I thought I was styling. I don't think I was styling. I think I was so numb.
Yeah, we spoke about it last week. And I had a meeting, and I SMS'd in the morning and said, hey, should we Zoom? And she's like, yeah, let's Zoom. And we Zoomed, and we're just like, I couldn't have done a real meet-to-meet today because I have another 2 appointments. I'm like, what's happened to us? Our capacity has diminished. 3 meetings in a day, I am like, that's overwhelming.
And it's maybe part of COVID fog. I don't know.
I think also going into our days with realistic expectation. It's kind of like 3 little like columns, like what's achievable? Okay, so what's achievable today? Celebrate the small wins. I'm big on that as well. Kind words. I think there's so much to be said for the way in which you speak to yourself. I really urge you to, in those still moments of discomfort that you want to run and go and get a cracker, a glass of wine or whatever, is really try and unearth the words that you use around yourself, for yourself. Because I think a lot of the time you would never use that kind of narrative on your best friend or your sister, ever. So why? I mean, we always say kindness can, the relationship with yourself is the longest relationship you will ever be in. It is the most important relationship you will ever be in. And if we think about when we first met our others, gosh, maybe trying to put the phone down. No, you put it down. No, you put it down. I mean, you put all your energy.
I love you more.
Yeah. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you say that you are full or you love yourself, oh God, you're very self-opinionated. So watch the way that you speak to yourself.
And even taking the compliment. Thank you. Thank you. I'll earn that. How often do we go, no.
This shit, I'm so old. I've had it for like 4 years. Okay? But always do like what? I'm say, shut, bro.
Thank you. I think every little, I think filling this cup is a monstrous job. I think this cup is not so much a cup as a massive bucket. And every day we are pouring out so much. So we've got to put as many little drops in as we can. Any compliment we get, own it, thank you. Monitoring our thoughts, hanging around people who build us up and are positive and encouraging. We don't need fake friends. We don't need fans. We don't need followers. We need support. We need family. I think that's an important thing. I was watching a thing this morning where on a self-care video, just trying to get myself into the mind of it. And one thing I think I do quite well, and out of all the rest that I really suck at, is the weekend planning for the week ahead. And I just wanted to share this because I find a lot of people saying, but what are the tools? Because so for me, if you want to practice self-care, for me, my headspace is like spaghetti bolognese. Some people either have like a freeway. Mine is spaghetti bolognese. There's no beginning, there's no end. So in my head, it's very chaotic and messy. So for me to go into a weekend to feel calm, free of stress, I have to be superbly organized. So I spend a lot of time on the weekends getting organized. I create a real downtime, a lot of, insular time. I have a lot of time at home with the family and not with a lot of socializing. And I go through like a little bit of a ritual. By Sunday night, the following is done. So I'll go through my whole goals list, my whole wheel of life. What am I going to do in the following week that'll take me closer to my goal for my spiritual life, for my family? Are there any birthdays coming up this week that I haven't prepared for? It would be, what do I need to do for my home? What are my financial goals? On my business, I almost do like an aerial view of my business. What are the things I need to do to push the lever the most in my business? And I've really tried this year smart work. It's not about all those little items on my to-do list, because I was the to-do list queen. And also, instead of having a daily to-do list, I've got a weekly one. Oh my gosh, it's been a game changer. Because on Monday, I was like you, I'm going to eat healthy. Well, in my case, Monday, I'm going to do 184 things. Monday night, I'd come home beaten. I'd only done 21. And the thing is now I've got a weekly list. This will happen sometime this week. And then while I'm doing that list, I have another list for when I have time. That's for the future, long time in the future, maybe next week, And I never get through the list, but I found that I'm being a little bit more forgiving on myself. And then on that weekend, just going through the home, tidying up, organizing. Some people live in mess and chaos and clutter. So this last year has been an amazing decluttering exercise. If you want to feel good about yourself and walk a little taller, throw your stuff away, give it away. There's people who need it more than you need it. Watering the plants, doing our recycling, so that Sunday night comes and I'm feeling that I can breathe. I'm feeling that, maybe the inner control freak in me is saying like, I'm in control. And I loved what you said, lower your standards. So often we've got people who'll say, I can't have friends around because the house isn't perfect. Nothing's perfect. I coach business people all the time who go, you know what, when my website's perfect and when I've designed my business cards and when I've done this and this and this, then I'll start my business. And that's just code for I don't have the confidence. And I think we're living in a very messy, imperfect world, and we have to play in that space now. And we have to go, are my standards too high? Are my expectations too high? Maybe I actually need to chill. And I even see that, so many people who were last year were hoping their kids would be head girls and head boys and win prizes. All those things got taken away and sporting it. And suddenly now people have moved from that thinking to let's homeschool the kid, and it's like, it's almost like, I think the things that we built our houses on, the foundations we had, have almost been shaken and have shifted. So I think maybe an exercise to do in terms of self-care is asking yourself, what are my top 5 values? Are they the same as they were? So I've taken a few away. The one was harmony, top 5 value without a doubt. And I've taken it away and I've put in honesty, because I found that, I actually think honesty is going to be my friend more than harmony. And if it means disharmony, my truth is my truth. So what I'm saying is maybe, and one of my goals was always, I had this saying, and don't try this at home. And it's from Dwayne Johnson: be hungry, be humble, be the hardest working person in the room. But now I'm 50, I've been in business 27 years, and I'm not as energetic as I was. So that hardworking work ethic, I've removed from my top values. I've literally obliterated it, and it's now all about smart work and leverage. So yeah, I think we've got to there's got to be certain areas in our life where we're going, I'm putting these structures in place and they'll help me with my self-care. A simple thing like planning your vitamins, I've got a little pull box and I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, it's so easy to go, oh, I forgot, but now you did them on Sunday. It's in your mind. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, for me to fill my cup, having watched the narrative that I speak has been the hugest shift for me. So that's like the entry point into my self, my relationships, because preserving healthy and prosperous relationships is really important to me. I'm also the kind of person that has my eye and heart on a lot of people at the same time.
Yeah.
And often very close friends will say, you're going to run yourself down. And I'm like, you have to understand that this keeps me alive.
Yeah.
I believe I'm on this planet to love,
connect,
heal, and support people from the thunderous times into the sunshine. That is my resonance. That gives me buoyancy, in fact.
Yeah.
So for me, filling my cup is giving. And I know that we're pretty similar. And I'm sure there's so many people in this beautiful collection call today that you feel the same magic and joy in giving. That really gives me such a clean flow of energy and water into my cup. Giving of time, giving of kind words. So that's really big for me. I'm also a list person. I love a good list, but manageable list.
Yeah.
I used to be the girl. I've come from a background of aspiring to be on a radio station since the age of 6, getting in almost 20 years ago and running at everything. I'm always the girl that had my hand up. I was always early. I was always prepared. I would always train people. I was always that girl. I was the girl that was on air while playing a song on air, turn my mic off, record a radio ad, see a guest in, back announce the song, bring on the news, chat to my mom quickly, take a call from the school. And now I look at my life and there's so much space, which at first was terrifying because I want to make, it's almost distraction though. Yeah. So I'm like, what are you distracting yourself from? And that's when well, I got goosebumps, look at me. Yeah. That's when that aha moment of like, okay, what am I running from? What do I want to run towards? Yeah. So now my list is 4 things on the list, and I'm going to execute them the best way I can. Yeah. Then I've got that feeling.
It's wonderful having low expectations.
But then there's that feeling of like, look, I smashed that day.
Exactly.
I'm not in ribbons at the end of it. Yeah. And that kind of also fosters this kind of confidence inside of you.
100%. Yeah.
So list is KIF as well. Yeah. And then I want to just end from my side by saying that I think there's also this very flowery, self-love is and self-care is having a manicure or going and having a spa treatment. That's great. But for me, it can be starting the morning off by taking my shoes off and just putting them into the garden. No matter how financially stressed I find myself, and there are going to be times where things are flourishing and times where things are a little bit tighter, there will always be a fresh bunch of flowers in my home. And I know that most people would say, cut the cloth to be cut your cloth according to your cloak, or whatever the hell the saying is. Yeah. You certainly don't need fresh flowers in your home if there's a bit of a tight energy flow happening here. And I'm like, oh no, because for me, that bunch of flowers is so a symbol of hope and prosperity and abundance. It might not be the 180 Rand bunch, because sometimes it's not that. Yeah. Sometimes it's actually a bunch that Rocco has picked out of the garden, and I've got my beautiful secondhand vases that I love to collect. And there it sits as this little emblem that hope is always, always something that you can have the choice in manifesting. And it's powerful.
Amazing. I love that. And I think one thing I learned from a friend of mine, Caitlin De Beer, about 4 years ago, she spoke about having a happiness list. And I love that because I've worked with that with lots of people. And I find most things on a happiness list don't cost money. So for me, it's like a walk on the beach with somebody that I'm close to. And you mentioned relationships. 90% of our happiness comes from relationships. So I think so many of us have done ourselves a disservice where we've become insular and we aren't connecting enough with people at a deep level because we aren't seeing them, or we're not touching, we're not smiling. That's, I think, had a real, like you mentioned, the laughter therapy. Smiling is immediate endorphins, just smiling at even across, exactly. And then something we did at the beginning of, in January, we got a dog. We got a little rescue dog. I cannot tell you the joy that we've had from this dog. He's a reminder every day to be playful. We laugh at this dog because he's crazy. And we're all around the dog. So we've got a collective goal as a family. We walk the dog every night. We're in nature. So many of us, I saw a stat that apparently most people spend 93% of their day or more inside. And as you said, you spoke about having your feet in the soil. That's called earthing or grounding. Many of us don't know how we feel. And it can reduce inflammation. It can make you immediately feel better. So having a dog has been, for me, a complete game changer. And I think, you mentioned the kindness thing. I've got a kindness journal that I got last year. I think I started at the beginning of last year. And every day I fill in the little things that I've done that no one else has seen. Nobody sees that kindness journal, but I just feel a little happier because it's my love language. And I think we've got to look at what are our energizers, what are the things that make us who we are, you know, our little X factors, and we've got to give them to the world. And I think that what I've realized, if we want to be truly joyful, it's not about what we're getting. It's entirely about what we're giving. It's about going back. Am I working in my purpose? And I feel terribly, terribly sad for people who are sitting at home in a small space and they're just sitting and they're feeling like they're withering. If that is you, I think make an active plan to say, I'm going to actually get out of this space that I'm in. And, you know, they say sitting is the new smoking. We spend about 12 hours a day sitting, you know, and then a lot of it lying down, sleeping. So we need to move more. We need to exercise. We need to get out. We need to shake ourselves up. The Dalai Lama says every year, go to a place you haven't been to before, even if it's, I don't know, somewhere like in the Kloof Gorge. You know, I think we can't get to England right now, but we can certainly do other little staycations and little you know, little extra things. So I hope on this call we've given you a few little tips. I just want to hand over and just say thank you so much, Jane, for your time. You're a busy lady. Thank you for sharing with me and with everybody here on this call. I don't know if you want to, from my side, I've got a retreat on the 13th and 14th of May. If anyone's interested, it's at Brahman Hills. I think we've got 2 spaces left, which is amazing. I know, which is awesome. And it just shows that people need a break. People need a change. And, you know, nothing changes if nothing changes. So give yourself permission today to change something about how you feel, something about what you're going to do differently. Because if you carry on like you are right now, and you extrapolate that in a year's time, where are you going to be? If you're going in the right direction upwards and you're in an amazing space, that's awesome. But my fear at the moment is so many people are actually living a less than brilliant life, and they're existing, and they're trying to survive. And I think we've got to you know, aim a little higher, and we've got to intentionally work on that. So Jane, over to you.
Thank you. You know, I'll do anything with you.
Thank you.
You know that. Paul and I are working very hard in the kindness can space. It really is my true heart. It's my true heart. So we've got a corporate chat that we're doing at the moment about kind of fostering hope and resilience. So if you're in a corporate space and you're interested in that, we also have the Sunflower Talk, where we go and chat to junior school, senior school, and high school kids about navigating and holding these big feelings. I think for the kids, this last year has been really tough, and there is some residual stuff that needs to be given a name and known how to deal with. So we work in the corporate and school space. And then in my personal capacity, I'm very, very passionate about high school, in particular grade 8s, because I think that big jump from, you know, that space to where they are now, especially with COVID being in the mix. I do an online support program for grade 8s. So if you'd like to find out about that, contact me anywhere, really. Smoke signal me, you'll find me.
And I think the amazing thing now is so much can be done online as well. So
cool.
You're literally on the other side of the call. What is your email address in case somebody wants to email you?
It's hello at lovejlt.com.
Fantastic. Jane, thank you. You are a ray of sunshine. And I feel like I'm walking on air having sat next to you. I feel like it's rubbed off on me.
I feel like we're the same about you. So
I wanted to say thank you for everyone for giving up your hour. I hope you got a few takeaway nuggets and a few little just different thoughts. I think that's the most important thing, is that we walk away going, you know what, I can do this. I've got this. I might not have been feeling like that yesterday, and maybe tomorrow I might not, but there's a couple of things I can do. I've got a few more tools in my toolbox.
Yeah, if this is something that you would like on an ongoing basis, like a once a month with Jane and Cindy, won't you just drop Cindy an email and we'll see how we can make that happen. Okay.
Fantastic.
Lots of
love, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, be safe.
Bye.